Yeah, we did the architecture based on the aperture of a camera. Signum Architecture in Napa. Juan Carlos designed it, and through a conversation with Jesse Katz about how they were going to build the new winery and including the production center, Juan Carlos literally sketched this on a napkin off of the concept of the aperture of a camera. Andy Katz, his father, and Jesse is also our founding winemaker and still plays a role in winemaking as our head winemaker as well. I came in June of 2019. I arrived just as the production building was being finished for that harvest, and then of course the hospitality was finished about 8 months later in 2020. And it seems like we finished it just in the nick of time. We literally got the keys to the winery on September 13th, and we received fruit on September 14th in 2019. Wow. So we had a very short period of time to get everything, dialed in and ready to go and take a vintage right away. It was a tremendous amount of pressure, but it was extraordinarily fun. It was one of the greatest opportunities I've ever had in my career, to be honest, to be part of building something so special, and seeing that come to fruition, and the fruits of that labor, being realized not only in 2019 but here 3 years later. It's got that, in the middle of the vineyard feel, and in 5 minutes you can be in downtown Healdsburg. And of course being in such a beautiful location. I mean, we're here in the Russian River Valley, facing west, and an incredible view, and such a special place to be growing Bordeaux varietals as well. And getting to walk this vineyard every day is certainly special. It started kind of by accident, to be honest. I was at UC Davis, brand new student, 18 years old, and I had to take an elective. And I signed up for Introduction to Winemaking. Carol Meredith was my instructor. And at the time, she was researching the genetic origins of Zinfandel, and she tracked that back to Croatia. And I was absolutely fascinated. She taught, just an intro-level class, but it really captivated me in the sense of the science behind it, that she was able to display in her work, but also the culture and the artistry of what winemaking was about. So I filled out my resume and went to the gymnasium when we had the job fair and got a job right away. Wow. And started working at Pine Ridge in Napa Valley. I was there for 6 years. Of course, I finished my degree at UC Davis. But during that time, I worked every holiday. I mean, winter break, spring break, summer break, harvest. I worked at Pine Ridge during those years, and then continued as a full-time assistant winemaker. When I was 23, I was hired into that position because I had been with the company for almost 3 years at that point, on and off, while I was going to school. And then I spent an additional 3 years, so 6 total. I sure felt the weight of it, absolutely. I mean, Pine Ridge, wow, what a legacy of winemaking. Stacy Clark was a winemaker at the time, incredibly talented winemaker. And, living up to that level of, perfection, and that level of winemaking artistry, and also just learning the foundations and cutting my teeth on every, terroir of Napa Valley, that young and Cabernet really solidified my love of Bordeaux varietals. From Pine Ridge, I went to Washington State, actually. I spent 13 years in Washington State, and I went up there sort of as a new frontier. It was the unknown. It was the challenge. I was 26 at the time, and I became the head winemaker for a small winery in Washington. And then over the course of my time there, I ended up starting my own business, a laboratory, and I did a lot of laboratory work for local vineyards and maturity data. And then I worked for Charlie Hoppus of Fidelitas and Wine Boss for quite 9 years, quite a long time, doing a lot of lab work and winemaking activities for his programs. I did one vintage in South America, so us winemakers like to count everything by how many harvests we've done. Sure. And this was my 24th harvest this year. I have a long way to go. Yeah. And it's very exciting, honestly. And every vintage, something new still unfolds that, we don't know quite how to approach, and we figure it out, and the weather presents us with something, or technology presents us with something. Just keeping, our palates fresh and interested, and finding new terroirs to discover. I mean, that's the beauty of it. There's always something new. I think there's a happy medium with technology. I'm very much someone that wants to learn new technology to help me make better wine. However, technology cannot replace your palate. Technology cannot replace gut feeling. Technology cannot replace experience. So I think you have to look at it as a useful tool of, I know what I want to make and how I want to make it. How can I use technology to further my goals? How can I use technology to, increase the quality of what I'm doing, maintain the quality of what I'm doing, and help me get to that end goal? And, Jesse and I spend a lot of time using technology. Certainly Jesse's idea when he built the winery was to build the most state-of-the-art technologically advanced winery that he could at the time, and he certainly did. However, that doesn't replace how often Jesse and I taste and how often we tweak things, and it doesn't replace barrels and physical movement of the wine. What really, really makes my heart race about wine, like, we can talk about the passion of everything, right? Like, winemakers, we do this because we love it. But what I tend to tell people, and the reason that I'm still doing this, it's not because I'm good at it. I'm good at it because I've done it for a long period of time. It's not because it's cool or, I'm trying to be fashionable. It's a visceral feeling. And I always talk about my start in winemaking being, at Davis and getting to these classes. And, honestly, it'll make me tear up, because when I talk about the visceral feeling, I can remember standing in the cave, entrance of the cave at Pine Ridge, and I felt it. And all I did was inhale. I just stood there between two very, very old oak upright tanks. They were massive, and the entrance to this beautiful cave, and I smelled the earth, I smelled the wine, and I smelled the barrels, and I had no idea in the world what the heck I was doing. I grew up, in a very, very rural town. My parents own a grocery store. I knew how to bag groceries, and my parents taught me well and gave me a great foundation, but nobody in my family was in winemaking. And yes, I got an interest in school because I was science-minded, and it, certainly the class captured me. But the reason I'm here is because I felt it. And it had really nothing to do with going to Davis or any of that. And I've never really told anyone that.
Well, I feel honored you told me.
Yeah.
Now you've told the world.
So that's the one maybe true entrance into winemaking that, maybe doesn't make sense to anyone else, but it makes sense to me. So we can be found on our website, aperturecellars.com, and make an appointment right off the website. You can get here to taste.